Hello, everybody. Man, I can never get this right. Welcome back to Art Smart. No, I'm in frame. This is Kevin Hogan, and today we're going to be talking about the Fleischer Brothers and their series of cartoons for Superman. Now, the Superman cartoons, for those of you who are not aware, started coming out in the late 1930s, and the Fleischer Brothers completed most of the series. And a few later entries, though, were completed by Famous Studios, which was the second incarnation, really, of Fleischer after Paramount took over the studio and kicked the Fleischer Brothers out. This is a series of cartoons that has really become quite popular over the last decade or so, maybe a little bit longer, as more and more people are realizing just how important this series is to the history of animation and really to the history of film. For those of you who are not familiar with the series, and by the way, this is not a drawing or a painting here that really matches the series at all. This is just done for the cover of this particular DVD that I have here. And by the way, this is from Vintage Home Entertainment. But this particular DVD is showing the series, but the Fleischer Brothers definitely did not look like that. This is a little bit closer. They're painting here of Lois Lane. But anyway, this series of cartoons was released in the latter part of the 1930s by Fleischer, and what makes it so important is that they were an early adopter of film noir, which is a very kind of moody, dramatic style of filmmaking being utilized in cartoons. No, they are not the first people to use film noir. It definitely preceded their use of it. However, they definitely influenced a lot of people, and that genre became much more popular after the Fleischer Brothers utilized it. Also, on top of it, the fact that they are using film noir actually really helped later on to influence how people made cartoons. If you look at the history of cartoons, for the most part, you have two different types that were popular. You have the comic animal, and you also have sweet sentimental type cartoons, more in the kind of Disney realm. And you would have variations. Of course, UPA had their own style and things like that, but in general, people tended to go either towards sweet sentimental or they would go funny cartoon animal to one degree or another. This particular series, though, showed people that you can be relatively serious and dramatic, and that you could have stories that were a little bit more intense, and you could have a dramatic story in a cartoon. So I think the Fleischer Brothers definitely deserve a lot of credit. Now, their animation style that they utilized here was a mixture of sometimes using rotoscoping, which was a tracing technique over live action, or what they would more commonly do was using live action footage as a basis for their drawing. So what they would do is they would basically watch an action and then they would kind of animate to it so that it would animate close to the action but not necessarily be 100% rotoscoped. This was something that, again, is not necessarily new at this point, but using it so heavily in a cartoon and having such a large degree of human movement in a cartoon just wasn't really done prior to this particular series. So they really pioneered that as a heavy used technique in animation. I really think they deserve some credit. These were also extremely expensive cartoons for their time. The animation technique I was just talking about is very time consuming, and so it cost them quite a bit to make these cartoons. Plus, the fact that they use so many dramatic angles where the camera's looking up or down or kind of peering through glass or something like that. All these angles took some time for the director and for the storyboard artist to really figure out what was the best way to present this information. And again, anytime you take time to figure out a difficult shot means that it takes more time, and time is money. So these are extremely expensive cartoons for their time. And now, over the course of time, when you start seeing all these films that are hitting TV, I should say TV series, the Batman series, Superman as well, and all kinds of things. Star Wars, the Clone War show, and all that. These things definitely are taking from the tropes that were really started here and kind of run with. And so there is a huge hat that needs to be tipped to the Fleischer Brothers in this early series. Now, what do I personally think of this particular series? And again, I'm showing you this DVD because it's just a collection that I have here, and it's the easiest way for me to give you a representation of the series. I personally think that sometimes a dramatic series in animation is just hard to pull off over the course of an entire cartoon. The problem is when you have human drama is that it always looks a little stiff compared to real life. Because again, when you're doing animation, it's hard to get all the nuances of a character and the way light hits her skin and all that. It's hard to put that across in animation, and so the drawings do look quite stiff. And really, that's kind of the case, though, with any type of animation of this sort in the film noir type area. A lot of the times, it feels just, it feels like if it was done in live action, it would feel more lively than the kind of stiff movement of these cartoons. Also, the fact that you're trying to do drama in a cartoon is hard to pull off because in a cartoon you can do virtually anything, and Superman, of course, does virtually anything here. But at the same time, they have to kind of make these cutoff lines because Superman has to have some sort of challenge in order for it to be interesting. And it's hard to pull off an animation where there just anything can happen and somehow pull it back at times so that it becomes believable and it has a little bit of drama on the screen. I just sometimes the mixture of trying to mix animation with a human drama I feel just comes a little bit off. So I'm not a huge fan of this type of cartoon. It's not my favorite, but I definitely think though that they do as good as anybody probably could with this kind of difficult technique of mixing in drama and human action with a cartoon. I also think that the production values on these are amazing, so it's definitely worth looking at. Pick it up. There's public domain copies all over the place. This particular copy was actually shown at a movie theater, so it's this. My dad runs a movie theater and he showed this, so that's pretty cool. Gotta go. Bye bye.